All right. Is this working? Yes. All right. Perfect. So, hello. Nice to see you. Sorry for the little delay, but as usual, because now this is almost, let's say, a predictable thing. There's always some technical issues, but we have solved them, so now we can continue, or we can start, actually. We are here gathered to talk about the funding possibilities here in Iceland and as well in Europe. But we will focus on, let's say, the local opportunities first, and then gradually move into the European opportunities for innovation in Iceland. We decided to have this in English, mainly because, well, everything in the Innovation Week is in English. It's a new thing for us, because we usually always present in Icelandic, at least from our part of the office. But you bear with us. If we say something stupid, then you will just pretend you didn't see it or hear it. I'm Sigga. I work, as I said, in the headquarters of Rannís. And with me is...
I'm Rakel. I work at Technological Development Fund as well.
All right. And we are going to... Yes, we have then Kata. She will join us later. And we will basically tell you about, let's say, the landscape of funding when it comes to innovative and creative and prosperous opportunities here in Iceland. And therefore we chose actually the theme of that we love to help, because we really, really would like the money to go to the right hands, to the right ideas, and we want to help people to get through the Amazon of, let's say, obstacles, because there are some, but there's also a lot of opportunities. So basically, Rannís, many people tend to let's say, confuse Rannís and then Tækniþróunarsjóði and then rannsókna or research fund and all kinds of funds. You just to say, let's say in few words, Rannís is almost like an umbrella. It's like a hug over a lot of funds, ranging from small to bigger to, let's say, a lot of money or less money, and so on and so forth. So let's say Rannís as an institution is this kind of, let's say, embrace around all this landscape that we're going to talk about today. And on the slides, you will see more of, let's say, technical descriptions, or let's say the correct, as this is an institution. But I will try, and Rakel, we will try to talk a little bit, let's say, human language when it comes to those things, because sometimes that is important when we have to do with rules and regulations and authority and all kinds of things. So basically, this umbrella has many different opportunities, and we will focus on the biggest fund that we have for innovation in Iceland, but we will talk about the different parts of it, and you of course then can always ask us if you have any questions, then please, but let's try to take them as we are in a live stream. We will try to take questions in the end of the presentation. Now, Iceland, yes, we are of course up here in the middle of nowhere. Therefore, it's even more important. We don't have the big companies or the big fundings like many other countries have. So it's crucial for the government to support all the initiatives and let's say the good ideas that later become lucrative companies. And in Iceland, as you know, we are not many, but if you compare the size of the nation compared to this fund that we are going to focus mainly on, which is the Technology Development Fund, then it's actually quite impressive how much we manage to fund, but at the same time we only manage to up around 20% of the applications that come in. And we would actually love to be able to do more, but that of course depends on the money that is available. We tend to think of our landscape, this Tækniþróunarsjóði, this Technology Development Fund, we tend to see it almost like a greenhouse. We will explain more what we mean by each step, but as you see a little bit on the images here, that there's always a seed that later turns into some kind of a growth that then multiplies itself and then hopefully makes it out into the market. So it becomes some kind of a product that can create value. And we love to talk about value rather than money or let's say turnovers, or because value can be so much. Value can be a better world, value can be let's say better life, and so on. So now we would like to go through each step, but before we do that, we're going to show you a short video that was made about around this Technology Development Fund.
Nýsköpun samfélaginu dýrmæt. Í dag mikil gróska í nýsköpun og fjöldi nýrra sprota sem hafa verið stofnaðir á undanförnum árum. Opinber stuðningur við nýsköpunarverkefni mikilvægur á fyrstu skrefum frumkvöðla. Þyngst vega Tækniþróunarsjóður og skattfrádráttur rannsókna og þróunarverkefna. Hlutverk Tækniþróunarsjóðs að styðja þróunarstarf og rannsóknir sem miða að nýsköpun í íslensku atvinnulífi.
Nýsköpun á Íslandi hefur á undanförnum árum fengið mikinn byr í seglin, enda ljóst að hún eykur samkeppnishæfni atvinnulífsins og skapar forsenda til vaxtar hagkerfisins. Við sjáum fjölmörg nýsköpunarfyrirtæki sem hafa náð blómstra að undanförnu og fjölmargra nýja sprota sem að koma fram með spennandi hugmyndir og vörur. Tækniþróunarsjóður mikilvægt tæki hins opinbera til að aðstoða þessi fyrirtæki við að ná árangri. Styrkir sjóðsins höfða til frumkvöðla sem á ólíkum stað með verkefni sín. Styrktarflokkarnir fræ og sproti til dæmis veittir til einstaklinga og ungra fyrirtækja sem í hugmyndavinnu og að taka sín fyrstu skref í vöruþróun. Jafnframt boðið upp á styrkina vöxtur og markaðsstyrkur til fyrirtækja vegna vöruþróunar sem komin af frumstigi og til að efla markaðsinnviði fyrirtækja. Þessu til viðbótar veitir sjóðurinn styrki til þeirra sem að sækja einkaleyfi fyrir hugmynd sinni. Rannsóknarverkefni sem unnin á háskólum og rannsóknastofnunum geta í mörgum tilfellum leitt til áhugaverðar hagnýtingar sem mikil verðmæti í. Sjóðurinn veitir styrki til slíkra yfirfærslu og hvetur sérstaklega til samstarfs rannsóknaraðila og fyrirtækjum í slíkum verkefnum. Það bjartir tímar framundan í nýsköpun á Íslandi. Tækniþróunarsjóður veitir öflugan stuðning og getur hjálpað frumkvöðlum að ná lengra. Starfsmenn sjóðsins ávallt reiðbúnir að aðstoða og leiðbeina umsækjendum sem vilja sækja til sjóðsins.
Tækniþróunarsjóður veitir frumkvöðlum stuðning til að hrinda hugmyndum sínum í framkvæmd. Sjóðurinn býður upp á fjölmarga styrktarflokka og með nokkra umsóknarfresti á ári hverju. Sproti og vöxtur 15. mars og 15. september ár hvert. Fræ og einkaleyfisstyrkir alltaf opnir og styrkir til hagnýtra rannsóknarverkefna 25. febrúar.
Like Sigga mentioned before, everything starts with a seed, some initial idea. And that's what the seed, the grant, is for. So the aim is to support individuals and young companies with a project at the concept stage, so the initial stage. And the companies must be under 5 years old. The support can be up to 2 million Icelandic kronas. This is the smallest grant at the Technology Development Fund. And the good thing about seed is always open for application. So if you have an idea, you can try out and put in an application, and we try to allocate grants around 3 to 4 times each year. And the next step is sproti, or sprout, when the idea is becoming something, is in early stage. And it also supports individuals and young companies. Here, companies also must be under 5 years old, and the grant is there 10 million kronas. So it's a little bit bigger, up to 2 years. The application deadlines for this grant is 2 times each year, in March and then in September.
So what Rakel was covering was basically the initial stages of the, let's say, the product development. The seed, of course, is like the initial idea. And if you feel that this is going to go somewhere and this really has a potential, you try for the sproti. I know this is quite harsh and strange words, but sprout also seems a bit not as logical for us, but otherwise, but it's basically, these terms from the startup. This is nothing new. A lot of people actually see this in the same context. If you manage to jump basically from the fræ and to sproti, the next step is actually vöxtur. And vöxtur in Icelandic stands for growth. Here we are talking about our biggest fund. Let's say the bigger sponsorship. Of course, it comes all from the technology fund, but this is the biggest amount. But you have to also show your case. You have to prove that you have been through, let's say, the initial phases and that you are now coming to a point where you need to, let's say, I don't want to say explode, but you want to bloom. That's probably a better word for it. And this can actually be 25 million Icelandic kronas per year and for 2 years. So a total of 50 million. And here, of course, there is a requirement that you have something to, let's say, add from your own business. The other two funds don't require any type of, let's say, funding from the company. And there are some rules and regulations that you might have to consider, like, for example, let's say, how much you can spend on which items. But we can help you with that. We definitely can help you along. So if there are any, they kind of get more complicated by each step. So don't hesitate to contact us, and we can try to lead you to the, let's say, to the right gates when it comes to filling out the application. It's always the same application deadlines. We have this, let's say, high points in the spring and then again in the fall, and it's the 15th of March and then the 15th of September. So growth, yes, is for sure the biggest one, but there is also another opportunity for companies that have, let's say, are in a very urgent state. Some companies really need to get to the market in a, let's say, a very brief time, or they have to invest in something that is crucial for the idea to succeed. And then you can actually apply for this. We call it sprint, but it's kind of an additional support on the growth. So then you can actually be upgraded to 35 million a year, a total of 70 million. And this is basically added on the board of the Technology Development Fund. They decide this, and it doesn't happen all the time, but there's occasionally there are companies that get this extra support. So keep that in mind as well, but it's within the application form of growth. Now, last, let's say, part of this, growing street is market, meaning that you had your idea with a seed, then you go and you test it and try it and kind of make sense of things during the sproti. Then you start to actually feel the potential of being able to grow and let's say, form into the, later stages. That was the growth. And now on the market, this is basically when the products are ready to be launched and ready to be received from the market. But as we know, let's say for the last years, development has moved a lot from just plainly develop things and then throw them into the market. Many times you have to work with the market. You have to get, let's say, feedback and all kinds of pointers from the market. And therefore, we divided this market support into two parallel directions. One being market development, because sometimes you have to really start to connect much earlier. I mean, let's talk about all the influencers and all the kind of tools that have come in the last years, and that can be crucial for a product to succeed. And then we made another parallel path, which we want to call market push. And that's more for companies that have a product, they know where they're going, they know they want to launch in Asia or launch in the States or launch somewhere, and they have a very clear strategy how to do it. So that is the two parallel streets. This is a grant for 1 year, and it's can go up to 10 million Icelandic kronas. But here also the company needs to show that they are also ready to invest. Same deadlines as the other ones that we have talked about. So here you have this kind of, let's say, little greenhouse. Yes, there's a question.
Do you have a calculated time for how long it takes to apply for each of the grants, like to make an application?
Yeah, well, again, this is a good question because this is governmental funding. This is money from the government, and this is basically a gift. So therefore, there is a lot of, let's say, rules and regulations that you have to follow and understand. But we try each year to minimize the work, and we actually did this year for the first time. This part here, the sproti, we basically cut it down to 2 steps. Exactly because what you say, we cannot go in the direction that the application process is taking too much time or gets too complicated or too difficult to go through. Because as we know, all entrepreneurs, they don't have time. And many of us are very, very creative, and we don't really have the ability to sit down and do, let's say, very specific things. So we tried to change this, and it actually worked very well, right? You would be, yes.
Yeah, it's going really well this year.
Yeah. And so that we are trying, but I would say that it gets more Fry is very easy. This is really easy, and you can throw in a pitch deck of 10 slides, and many people have already a lot that goes into the Fry. Sproti requires that you sit down and you basically start to, you need to have a plan, and you need to have a convincing plan, and so on and so forth. And then when you come to Vöxtur, there it gets more complicated. Here you have to really think about, let's say the business plan as such, and how actually all the action plans and everything connects together.
Have you thought of dividing it in 2 phases also in Vöxtur?
Another good question, because I think that would be excellent to do, because I think it's really important that because there's a lot of work in there. Making an application like this is very, very, let's say, both time consuming, but also it's a project in itself. So I think it's a good question. We always try. We really are trying to lean everything when it comes to this, because we want people to be able to apply themselves and not having to buy some extra help or something. Of course, that's also, we have nothing against it, but this should be a program that everyone could be able to access and understand and do and work with. So yes, I will definitely note this, because I think it would be a good idea. And so basically, I would say this, yes, it raises, and I encourage, and we encourage everyone to start earlier than later. Often Icelanders start a little bit too late, and we are on call to help. And if you want to meet up with us, or if you want to call us, or however you want to do, we are present here in Gróska once a week. There's always a person from the Technology Fund based next to Icelandic startups, and that's on Wednesdays. So you can either book a meeting with us or just drop by. So, and there's more. Now, let's see. Yeah, just briefly, if you want to protect your ideas, you should seek protection, and you should definitely go for any type of protection that you possibly can benefit from. We help companies to do this. We pay half of the cost, and if it's let's say we have it up to a local application, we support it up to 300,000 Icelandic kronas, and if it's an international application, then we can provide 1.2 million, but that means then if the cost is 2.4, then 1.2 comes from us. So 50% of the cost. And this is open all year round. And if I can just anything, keep this in mind. If you have something that you can protect it. Especially, it gets more important every every year. And let's say this is also interesting. We are always trying to bridge the research and the innovations that happen within the institutions. Who doesn't recognize when you are graduating and you have this brilliant idea and you would love to make value out of it in form of a, let's say a product or jobs or whatever. And so this here, the practical research projects, is actually this bridge that we would like to create between the institutions and then, let's say, the private business. So this is also, it's open only once a year, but, and here you need to have an institution with you. It's not only for private, but this could be a school, it could be an institution that does research on food or whatever. And then you can basically, this is a 3-year grant, and it is 15 million a year, so a total of 45 million. All right. Now, last but not least, no, it's not last. We're going to go do some more. Yes.
Could you do that one in cooperation with government, for example, like specifically? Yeah.
Yes, yes, I would say definitely. If there is a, let's say, even for example, this is basically open to public institutions. So the University of Iceland and even the University of Reykjavik, even it is specifically a private, but it's because it's an institution. We also have quite a lot of projects being done with that school. So Matís and other companies, you can for sure do that. Absolutely. All right. And yes, the tax deduction program. We actually have the specialist here with us, but this I just want to urge everyone working in R&D to note this, because this is basically one of the biggest initiatives that the government has provided when it comes to support for innovation, because this is basically you get paid back the amount that you've already spent on R&D. It's tax deductible, and it has certain requirements. But this, so in a way, this is basically money being paid back to you after having spent it on R&D. There was a limit of 35% being returned to the, let's say, the startup, but it is being minimized a little bit to 30%. For the bigger companies, it is down to 20%. I think I'm right, because those numbers were a bit,
Exactly yet, because the parliament hasn't decided for this year. So you just keep looking.
Yeah, that's why we didn't put any numbers in, because it was 35, it might go down to 30, and then even a little less for the bigger companies, because of course the bigger companies are getting a lot of money in return.
So how do you apply for it? What's the process? How much work is it?
Well, this is done, as I said, this is money already spent. So basically, you can say that there are conditions for a project to be approved, and it has to be within the research and development, let's say, sphere. It has to be the idea of a value-added product or service, and the business plan needs to be well-defined. And it has to be verified with data that at least 1 million Icelandic crowns has been invested for the research and development in the project over a 12-month period. So this is basically, let's say, retroactive with the year that has passed. And that employees have training, education, or experience in the field of which the idea of value-added product or service is based. These are the criteria, and then this is sent to Rannís. Rannís then goes through the applications, and if it lives up to those, let's say, factors, then the application is approved, and the payment goes back. Let's say it's refunded, not goes back. And we, of course, this one or this one? Okay. And then basically just bear in mind, these are all really, really important and useful and good opportunities that we have within the Technology Fund. But we're going to conclude, I think, from Raquel is taking over.
Yeah, the Student Innovation Fund. I wanted to draw some attention to that fund because I think it can be a great opportunity to companies to hire a student over the summer, and also students to come up with an idea to maybe companies or universities and present them and then work on that over the summertime. So the Student Innovation Fund is for undergraduate and master students, and it has its goal to give universities, research institutes, and companies a chance to hire undergraduate and master students for summer jobs in research and development. Deadline is in early February each year, so if you have an idea up in your sleeve, you are a student and you need a job, then have this grant in mind, and maybe you want to work with an ambitious company, so you can ask them if they want to be your supervisor. So I think it's a great opportunity for students to get to know companies or universities, and then also for companies to use young, ambitious students.
Yes, that is for now is what we have covered from the Technology Development Fund and other exciting things. Now, Kata is going to come and talk to you about the opportunities within Europe. But do you have any questions now, just immediately? Otherwise, we can take them also later. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I wonder if you have any, if there are any funding channels that would enable entrepreneurs and SMEs to employ professional grant writers, which then could, submit the proposals to the various channels within the European program, whether it's pathfinders, the SMEs, and so on. Because these grant writers are not particularly expensive, and what the customers would get out of that is a very streamlined and a very sharp business plan, including the financial planning, the business case, and all the rest that goes with it. So even if they don't get funded, because it is, of course, a competitive environment, it would be very useful for them to have that document. They could resubmit it or submit it to another funding body.
Well, you're completely right that we have had this, how do we make this application process as good? Because as you say, 20% is, of course, 20%, but it's so many good ideas that do not enter and can't pass, let's say, that border into the ones that get granted. We know about this, and we have tried to meet up with both people getting funded, because sometimes, especially in Sproti, they don't really know what is the next step. Many people haven't even started a company. So all of a sudden you get a grant, and then, okay, so what's next? And we know that for a fact that there's a lot of people there also that had amazing applications, but they just need to refine here and there. So they always get, let's say, a feedback from the let's say I don't want to call it judges, but from the people that actually, the council that reads over the applications. So you do get the feedback saying that, if you could approve this, if you could do this a little bit better, or this was a little bit unclear. So very often they come in the next application deadline. They come in with another application, and it's already improved. And so many times people actually make it in the second or the third, sometimes the fourth try. But I do appreciate, I think it's really, really good, yes, to have, let's say, a support program. I just listened to a support program being held in Norway, where actually people are connected with people that can basically help them a bit shape the business plan, or the, let's say, production plan, or, something like that. So we don't have it now, but we have talked about it a lot, how we can, because again, this is a bottom-up funding, and we can help so and so much, but we can't, for example, like with the European grants, there you can actually get help to write the applications. We cannot do that, but we can assist you up to a certain point. So, but basically...
With money then?
Sorry?
With money then?
Not with money, with our peace and love.
Only
no,
so
but
far,
we can... No, but we can definitely develop this into something more. And I think, well, of course, if you get funded, you get X amount of money, and it's up to you. Many people put it into their, basically into their application. They're going to use part of the fund to actually get, let's say, organized or to get this type of help. So, for example, in the market, if you want to have a market analysis, people just put that and how many months and how much is that salary, and then it's a part of the grant. And that is approved. We, of course, approve salary in order to make the idea flourish and become even better. So, but yes, we would love to have a lot of factors, and we're working on it, I promise. All right. So, Kata, over to you. Tell us about Europe.
Hello, everybody. I'm gonna shortly present Enterprise Europe Network. Just a little bit about the history of the Enterprise Europe Network. It was founded, it is a European project founded in the year 2008 and has been ongoing since then. Our network here is hosted under Rannis, which is an excellent place to be situated in. And Enterprise Europe Network, the biggest business network in the whole world. What does it mean for you? That means we have around 3,000 specialists around the world, situated in 600 offices in over 67 countries. Now, these are only numbers. What can I do with that? You can, with these numbers, we can connect you with local specialists who have knowledge on their own market and connect companies, institutions with them in a very swiftly manner. As you all know, each company, each university, each institution has its own circle of network. You can look at Enterprise Europe Network as your add-on network. But it's not only just networking and chatting. We also have other services that we want to go over. Just a small sip. I don't know who owns this glass, but Kovis is not there anymore. It's water. So the services is mainly threefold that we have. It's divided into three. International partnerships. And that is, of course, our pride and joy. We help companies and institutions to form their own profiles. And we work with them both formally by launching them on a specific database that we have, or we take that profile and start interacting with our network. And the communication within the network is, so to speak, very personal, so we can take up the phone or send them an email and connect ideas, companies, technology very swiftly over into international markets. We also take part in company missions and also take part in B2 matches. And B2 matches is an excellent way for companies to meet other companies. You probably know this way of interacting. And we, as a network, try to connect ourselves with big and small exhibitions or conferences with this possibility. And we have a special platform for companies to meet. And these are only 15 minutes, quick meetings for you to get to know each other. we also have advisory support. And it is very important for especially small and medium-sized companies to get those ground information on new markets. Get to know the EU laws and regulations. Get the first information about IP. And we can also give you information about the market. Because our specialists are situated in Chamber of Commerces, in universities, in technology centers, so they are widely spread. And then the third part is innovation support. And that is where we come in for the support for access to funding. And we assist companies, universities, to connect themselves through to others who want to take part in European grants. And we also support companies to get to know international financing opportunities. And then we have a certain management tool where we can go over the status of each company, mainly of course SMEs that have a small team of people, and we help them to analyze their status, analyze their innovation, go over, for example, their sustainability status and also digitalization. And this is what we do mainly on a one-to-one basis, and then we can deliver a report on next steps with the SMEs. And of course, all of this service is for free, because this is a European project. Just to mention, it's always good to have an example sorry, of the companies that have received service from Enterprise Europe Network. And here we have an interview with Fita, who is working for Geosilica. So I'm gonna play that for you.
Geosilica íslenskt fyrirtæki sem þróar fæðubótarefni. Markmið þessara efna að endurnýja líkamann innanfrá. Geosilica notast við háþróaða tækni og nýtir steinefni sem finnast í eldfjallajarðvegi. Vörur þeirra 100% hreinar og náttúrulegar.
Geosilica fyrirtæki sem framleiðir hágæða steinefni unnar úr jarðhitavatni frá Helliseyjarvirkjun. Fyrirtæki okkar eiginlega spin-off frá Háskóla Íslands, þar sem ég og Burkni vorum að skrifa lokaverkefni okkar nýtingu á jarðvarmi og út frá því sprett Geosilica. Sem sprotafyrirtæki, Geosilica hefur haft svona lítið tengslanet í Evrópu og Enterprise Europe Network hjálpa okkur að tengjast betur Evrópu, þar sem til dæmis þegar við tökum þátt í sýningum, þá eru þeir með svona skrifstofu þar sem hægt að taka fundi. Þeir raða fundi fyrir mann og svona, það heitir B2B match, finna rétta aðila sem við ættum að tala við, skipulega fundi og svona leiða okkur í gegnum fundinum og svo fylgja því eftir á. Þó við heldum við sem mjög stóra á Íslandi og allir ætti að vita hvað við erum að gera og hvert við erum að fara. Það staðreynd að við höfum minna tengslanet en aðrir Evrópulanda, þannig ég tel það vera mjög mikilvægt að hafa slík starfsemi til að tengja okkur betur við Evrópu. Ég held í framtíðinu okkar eftirspurn eftir slík þjónusta mun aukast þar sem við erum að stefna á að sækja Evrópustyrki til dæmis og mun nýta okkur þjónustan sem í boði. Þeir lesa yfir umsóknir, þjálfa teymi til að kynna verkefni hjá Tækniþróunarsjóði. Þannig ég held sambandi okkar á eftir að styrkjast í framtíðinu.
Enterprise Europe Network stærsta viðskiptatengslanett heims. Hjá því starfa 3000 sérfræðingar á yfir 600 stöðum í fleiri en 60 löndum í öllum heimsálfum. Markmið Enterprise Europe Network að styðja við metnaðarfull fyrirtæki í nýsköpun og alþjóðlegum vexti. Öll þjónustan gjaldfrjáls.
This was the end of my presentation.
Geosílíka
If you have any questions, you can always send us email. This is the team, and we are adding to it people, so you can always contact us. No questions. Nobody wants money.
The third pillar on the services that you provide was innovation, and you said help to access EU funding. What does that entail? What kind of assistance do you offer?
Very nice of you to bring up this question. I forgot to describe that. We actually, if you have ever looked at the EU funding system, it is very confusing. Horizon Europe, Digital Europe, LIFE, all these grants, we are there to simplify and map out the right funding for you, and then we plan a meeting and discuss how you can apply. If you need to add partners, most of the grants you need a big consortium to apply, but there's a huge calling for small and medium-sized companies, for example, in research projects. So that is what we do. We simplify the big forest of EU grants. We also help people with reading them over, checking the details of the criteria. We do everything but writing the application. Sorry about that. Okay, thank you.
So, this concludes our presentation from Rannís. And if there are any further questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Otherwise, you know where to find us. You can, as I said, you can book us online. You can book us here in Gróska. Enterprise Europe Network is also presented here. So we all basically, and if there's any specific questions, we can always reach out and ask our colleagues. So please don't hesitate, and thank you for listening and being here with us. Bye.